The first night back in my mother's house, I woke to the sound of a door slamming upstairs. Only problem was, there weren't supposed to be any doors up there. When the doctor called and said Mom shouldn't be left alone anymore, I packed up and drove back to the house I swore I'd never live in again. It hadn't changed. Peeling paint, sagging porch, that same smell of dust and cedar when you walked inside. Mom was smaller than I remembered, thinner, fragile, but her eyes were sharp. She gripped my wrist when I set my bags down. "Don't go up the hallway," she whispered. "What hallway?" I asked. "The one upstairs, the forgotten room." I smiled, tried to soothe her. "There isn't a room up there, Mom. Just your bedroom and the attic." She shook her head. "Not that one. The other one. Don't open it, Daniel." Dementia, I thought. That's all. Days settled into routine. Breakfast together. Pills sorted into little plastic cups. TV humming low in the background. At night I'd hear her muttering from her room. "Don't go in. Don't look at them." Sometimes she refused to walk upstairs at all, shuffling to the recliner in the living room and dozing there. I laughed it off, but I'll admit, I started avoiding that part of the house too. Old houses creak, shadows fall strange. You tell yourself it's nothing, but the idea sticks. The first week passed quiet, until one night past midnight, a door slammed upstairs, loud, sharp, like someone had thrown it shut in anger. Mom called out from her room, panicked. "You heard it too, didn't you?" I grabbed the flashlight, my heart banging. The upstairs hallway looked the same as always, wallpaper peeling in thin strips, the air colder than it should have been. At the end of the hall, though, there was a door that had never been there before. I don't remember deciding to open it. My hand was just there on the knob, twisting. Inside, the air was thick and still, smelling of mothballs and old wood. The room shouldn't have existed. The house wasn't that big, but it stretched deep, walls lined with portraits, family portraits. I stepped closer, the beam of my flashlight jittering. There was my grandfather, stiff in his Sunday best, my grandmother unsmiling, my mother as a girl, and me, not just one photo, dozens, me as a child, a teenager, even one from last year, none of which I remembered posing for. I staggered back, stomach lurching. The faces in the portraits seemed to shift in the light, smiles flickering, eyes following me. Then I heard it, whispering, a soft chorus, dozens of voices overlapping, all saying the same thing. "Stay." I slammed the door and nearly tumbled down the stairs. Mom was waiting at the bottom, wide-eyed. "You opened it," I tried to explain, words tumbling out, pictures, voices, the room. She just shook her head. "It doesn't forget, Daniel. Every time someone lives here, it remembers them. It keeps them. That's why we left it shut." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If you look too long, you won't come out." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that it was stress, or some elaborate prank, but my throat felt tight. After that, I tried to ignore it. I locked the door, shoved a chair against it, but at night I'd hear the knob rattling, the whispering seeping through the cracks. The voices weren't all strangers anymore. Some of them were mine. One night I dreamed I was standing in the room again, staring at a portrait of myself, only this time, the me in the painting blinked. I woke up drenched in sweat, certain the door was wide open. The breaking point came 3 nights later. Another slam, another rush of whispers, louder this time, urgent. I stormed upstairs, flashlight shaking in my grip. The door stood open, waiting. Inside, the portraits glowed faintly in the dark. I saw my mother's face in one, younger, vibrant. She raised her painted hand and pressed it against the glass from inside the frame. Her mouth moved. "Help me." Behind me, I heard her real voice, faint from her bedroom. "Don't look, Daniel. Don't look at them." But I couldn't move. The portraits leaned forward, shadows stretching, whispers blending into one voice, mine. "Stay." The painted version of me smiled, raised a hand. motioned me closer. For one awful second, I wanted to step in. I don't remember shutting the door. I only remember waking on the floor outside, morning light creeping through the blinds. The door was gone, just wallpaper again. When I told Mom, she only nodded as if she'd expected it. It forgets sometimes, she said, but it always remembers again. That night I lay in bed listening, waiting. The house was quiet, but in the silence I could feel it. Those eyes in the walls, those portraits breathing softly, waiting for me to come back, and I know someday I will. The first night I slept in that apartment, I woke up certain someone was standing in the dark, just past the locked door at the end of the hall. It wasn't much. A shoebox place above a laundromat, heat rattling through old pipes, floorboards that groaned like they were tired of holding weight. But the rent was cheap, and cheap is king when you're a college kid. The landlord, a skinny guy with yellow nails, handed me the keys and pointed down the short hole. "That one stays locked," he said. I asked why. He shrugged. "Storage belongs to the owner. Don't worry about it." Which is exactly the kind of thing that makes you worry. Classes, part-time job, ramen dinners. Days passed in a blur. But nights were different. I'd brush my teeth, kill the light, crawl into bed, and then I'd feel it. Pressure like eyes on the back of my neck. Not from the window, not from outside. From the locked door. I'd tell myself it was nothing, just nerves. But every night the feeling got worse. The weight of someone standing there, listening, breathing. Sometimes I swore I heard a shuffle, the soft drag of feet across wood. One night after a week of this, I couldn't take it anymore. I dug through the drawer of random junk in the kitchen and found a thin, bent butter knife. I jimmied the lock like I'd seen in movies. Click. The door creaked open, the smell of dust rolling out. The room was bare. No boxes, no furniture, just a single object against the far wall, a mirror, not fancy, just tall, old edges silvering glass warped with age. But when I stepped closer, my stomach dropped. The mirror showed me asleep in bed, my body under the blanket, my face slack, mouth slightly open, exactly how I looked every night. I stumbled back and slammed the door shut. All the next day I told myself I imagined it. A trick of the light, stress, something. But that night when I walked past the locked room, the feeling was worse. I didn't hear breathing. I heard whispering, low, frantic words I couldn't quite catch. I locked my bedroom door and slept with the lamp on. 2 nights later, I forced myself to look again. I told myself I'd imagined it, that if I saw the mirror again, it would just show, well, me. Standing there, I opened the door. The mirror showed my bed again, only this time the reflection wasn't empty. I was there in the bed, but my eyes were open, staring, wide and unblinking, fixed on the ceiling. And then, God help me, the reflection smiled. I slammed the door so hard the frame cracked. I begged my friend Claire to stay the night. I needed proof I wasn't losing my mind. She laughed when I told her about it. "So what, creepy mirror? You've been binging too many horror podcasts." Still, she stayed, slept on the futon while I tossed in my room. Around 3 a.m., I heard her whisper my name. I rushed out, hot hammering. She was sitting up on the futon, pale as paper. "Jake," she said, "there's someone in that room." We listened. Soft scraping sounds, like fingernails on wood. I grabbed the knife again and opened the door. The room was empty. The mirror showed both of us, Claire on the futon, me by the door. Only, in the reflection, something was standing behind me, tall, thin, face blurred like fog on glass. Claire screamed. I slammed the door. After that, she refused to come back. I didn't blame her. The landlord laughed when I demanded answers. "Place is old," he said. "Plays tricks on people. If you don't like it, move out." But I couldn't, not yet. Money was tight. Finals were coming. I told myself I'd just ignore it, but ignoring wasn't an option. Every night the whispers grew louder. Sometimes I'd wake to find the locked door wide open, and the mirror. I stopped looking, but I knew it was waiting. The last night the noises woke me at 2 a.m. Not whispers, knocking from inside the locked room. I sat up, sweating, my heart a fist in my throat. The knocks came again. Slow, deliberate. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe exhaustion, maybe madness. But I got up, walked to the door, and opened it. The mirror was waiting. I saw myself in bed, but I wasn't asleep. I was standing in the doorway of the reflection, watching. Only it wasn't me. The reflection was smiling, teeth too wide, eyes too dark. And then, God help me, it stepped forward, out of the mirror. I slammed the door, through the lock, pressed my back against it while the wood shuddered, like something was pounding from the other side. And then silence. I moved out the next morning, left dishes in the sink, books on the shelf, everything. I didn't even wait for daylight, just grabbed my bag and left the keys on the counter. Sometimes late at night I still feel it, that pressure, that watching. I wake up certain there's a door in my apartment I never noticed before, just waiting for me to open it. And sometimes in dreams I see myself asleep, mouth open, eyes staring, always staring. You ever wake up in the dark and realize the night is listening to you? That's how it felt our first night in that cabin. Not just quiet listening. Claire had found the place online. Rustic charm, she called it, pointing at the photos. A log cabin half buried in trees. Lake a short walk away. Porch with a swing. Cheap too, which should have told us something. I wanted the trip. God knows we needed it. After 6 months of fights over bills, late nights at work, who was drinking too much, mostly me, it felt like we'd been talking through clenched teeth. This was supposed to be our reset button. The drive was long, the road narrowing until pine trees walled us in. When we pulled up, the air smelled sharp, resin, and damp earth. Claire said, "Perfect, right?" And I smiled because she wanted me to. We ate sandwiches on the porch and listened to the woods breathe. No neighbors, no traffic, just the needles whispering when the wind moved through them. That night after we killed the lantern, I lay awake listening. At first it was nothing more than the creak of the cabin settling. Then came a sound, soft, hushed, like someone talking just outside the window. I held still, straining. Words blurred, faint, as if carried by the trees themselves. My name. Then Claire's. I shook her shoulder. "You hear that?" She frowned, half asleep. The wind. But I wasn't so sure. The next night it happened again. Louder, clearer. "Always your fault. You don't listen. Selfish." Claire sat up in bed, pale. "Jake," she whispered, "that's us." She was right. The voices weren't strangers. They were ours. Arguments we'd had in our kitchen, in the car, in the dead hours when neighbors could hear. Word for word. I said maybe someone recorded us. Dumb, I know. Who would drive into the middle of nowhere to prank a couple on vacation? But the other option, trees repeating our ugliest moments, was worse. We left the lantern burning that night, both of us staring at the dark, waiting for the voices to fade. They didn't. By the third night, the whispers had changed. They weren't just repeating, they were twisting. "You'll never leave. Bury her out here. Kill him before he kills you." I pressed my palms to my ears, but the words seemed to crawl inside my head. Claire shouted, "Stop it," out the window, and for a moment the pines went silent. Then they laughed, our voices mocking. That broke something in her. Claire wanted to leave right then, middle of the night. I argued stupidly that it was too dark, the road too narrow. We'd go at first light, but morning brought calm. Sun in the trees, lake shining like nothing was wrong. Claire made coffee, hands trembling as she poured. We both pretended it was fine. That afternoon, I took a walk down to the water to clear my head. The woods were heavy with quiet, no bird song, no rustle, just silence. When I came back, Claire wasn't inside. The back door stood open. I followed the sound of her voice, soft, low. She was standing in the trees, head tilted as if listening. She didn't notice me. "Claire?" She turned slowly. Her lips moved, but the words weren't hers. They were mine. A fight we'd had last winter about money. The exact words I'd shouted at her. Only her mouth was forming them. I felt cold all over. "Stop, come inside." She blinked, confused, and for a second it was her again. But behind her the pines shivered without wind, whispering. That night we tried to drown the voices out with music from my phone, but the whispers slipped between notes, louder than speakers could cover. Claire pressed her hands over her ears. "They won't shut up, Jake. They want us to fight." "Then we don't," I said. "We don't give them what they want." But that was the trick. The harder we tried not to, the more the voices needled us, stoking old wounds. By midnight, we were shouting at each other, word for word with the trees. It felt like they were feeding off us, growing louder every time we raised our voices. And in the middle of it, I heard something new. Not whispers this time, a roar, a deep, hungry sound rolling through the pines. The cabin walls shook. Claire screamed. I grabbed her hand and we bolted for the car. The trees leaned close, branches clawing at the roof, voices shrieking every terrible thing we'd ever said to each other. I slammed the keys into the ignition, praying it would start. "Don't look," I told her. "Don't listen." But I did. I looked. In the mirror, the pines weren't just trees. They had faces, our faces. Twisted masks, mouths gaping with words they weren't finished saying. The engine caught, tires spun on dirt, and then we were moving, the voices chasing us down the road until they thinned into static and were gone. We didn't stop until we hit a gas station an hour away, both of us shaking. Claire wouldn't talk, just stared at her hands in her lap. When I asked if she was okay, she whispered, "They wanted us to stay. They wanted us to finish." I don't know what she meant. I don't think I want to. We never went back for our stuff. Left clothes in drawers, food in the fridge, her favorite jacket on the porch swing. Some nights I dream it's still there, swinging gently, and the pines are whispering, waiting for us.